They forced the blind alien prince to dine alone, until a human servant became his eyes. In the shimmering palace of Tavona, where glassy corridors echoed with laughter and clinking utensils, a young prince sat at a small table in the shadows. He was surrounded by luxury, but wrapped in a silence that had nothing to do with sound. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. Prince Zerich of the Tavonian Empire sat very still, hands folded, listening to the roar of the great dining hall. Nobles joked and gossiped, utensils chimed against metal plates, servers hurried past with fragrant dishes. None of it was for him. He was 17 cycles old and had never once felt truly seen. Every other Tavonian carried their pride in their eyes. Their large bioluminescent orbs glowed and shifted color with every emotion. Blue for calm, purple for interest, green for delight, yellow for worry, orange for excitement, red for anger or passion. Their entire culture revolved around a language of light. Zerich had been born without it. His eyes were pale and clouded, their glow weak and unsteady. He could not see the palace, the stars, or the rainbow towers of his homeworld. His condition, an uncommon mutation, was whispered about as if it were a curse, a stain on the royal bloodline. He was third in line to the throne, yet most of the court pretended he wasn't there. They said his privacy was being protected. Zerich knew better. They were embarrassed that a royal couldn't shine. "Your meal, Your Highness," a servant muttered, setting a plate down with mechanical precision before retreating without waiting for a word of thanks. Zerich inclined his head anyway, even though he knew the servant was already halfway across the hall. Fingers steady from years of practice, he searched for his cutlery, feeling his way along the plate. Every movement had been rehearsed 1,000 times. Count the distance from mouth to plate, memorize the layout, don't spill, don't fumble. One mistake was all the court needed to confirm their private verdict, that the blind prince was a burden. Far away, on a blue world called Earth, a 16-year-old boy zipped up a travel bag that felt heavier than anything he'd carried in his life. "Tyler, are you absolutely sure?" his mother asked, folding a worn t-shirt with slow, careful hands. "A full year? On another planet?" Tyler Grant scrubbed a hand through his sandy hair and tried to smile like this was all adventure and zero fear. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime scholarship, Mom. And you said it yourself. The stipend covers your rent for a year. I can't just turn that down." He didn't add the rest out loud, that the apartment was full of his father's ghost, that everywhere he looked, he saw the car keys his dad never picked up again, the half-finished projects, the jokes that would never land. The crash had taken his father's life and left Tyler stuck between grief and guilt. The student ambassador program offered something he needed even more than money: distance. "I know we need the funds," his mother said, voice tight. "But it's still another galaxy, sweetheart." "I'll be okay," Tyler replied, though his stomach twisted. "Humans are famous out there for being adaptable, remember? That's why they picked us. We're good at making things work." The trip to Tavona took 3 long weeks on a Commonwealth transport. Tyler spent most of it hunched over a tablet, cramming Tavonian history and basic phrases into his skull. He learned that Tavonians were tall, silver-skinned humanoids whose metallic skin caught and scattered light like polished chrome. Their glowing eyes were not just beautiful, but fundamental. Emotions, social status, even subtle signals of rank all flowed through color. The Tavonian Empire had ruled dozens of star systems for thousands of years. Earth, by comparison, had only just figured out faster-than-light travel 70 years ago. Humanity still felt like the new kid in a classroom full of ancient honor students. When the ship finally emerged into the Tavonian home system and descended toward the capital, Tyler pressed his face to the viewport and forgot to breathe. The city of Lamora was a field of light. Crystal towers pierced the sky, bending the pale gold of Tavona's star into streaks of color that danced over the streets. At the center floated the royal palace, anchored in an artificial lake, its gleaming structures connected by arching bridges of metal and stone that glowed softly from within. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Eliza Cooper, one of the Earth Program coordinators, stepping up beside him. Tavona's palace complex is 10,000 years old. They've updated it so much over time that there's a running joke it's more renovation than original building now. Tyler just nodded. For the first time since his father's death, wonder edged out grief. The human students were assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing, sharing suites near other off-world staff. After a rushed orientation on Tavonian etiquette, bow your head, watch the eye colors, never touch a noble without permission, they received their placements. Tyler's heart sank when Eliza handed him his assignment. Kitchens, he blurted before he could stop himself. I thought we'd be, I don't know, in embassy offices or policy departments. Eliza's eyes narrowed. Do you want to represent Earth or complain about the station you're given? The royal kitchens are where culture lives, Tyler. Food is power here. Who sits where? Who is served first? What dishes appear on which days? None of that is random. He clasped his hands behind his back. Right, of course. I just thought I'd be more diplomatic. Every job in this palace is diplomatic, she said firmly. Don't forget that. The kitchen felt like the engine room of a warship. Steam hissed, tools flashed. Dozens of species worked in coordinated chaos under the eye of Master Kellner, the Tavonian head chef. Stainless surfaces gleamed. Strange devices hummed and pulsed with unfamiliar energy. You're late, human. Master Kellner snapped the moment Tyler crossed the threshold. His eyes glowed a warning orange, edging toward red. We've done things the same way here for thousands of years. That will not change for you. Sorry, sir, Tyler said quickly, bowing his head as they'd been taught. It won't happen again. Kellner's eyes cooled to yellow, then to a watchful blue. We shall see. You'll start with produce prep. Report to Lena. She'll decide if you're useful. Lena was smaller than most Tavonians, with gentle features and eyes that glowed a calm blue. She moved quickly, efficiently, her four-fingered hands flying through piles of brightly colored fruits and vegetables that came from planets Tyler had never heard of. Wash, peel, slice, she instructed, demonstrating. Do not waste. Do not improvise. These are royal meals. Follow the patterns exactly. They worked side by side, the hours long but steady. The kitchen had its own rhythm. Once Tyler found it, the work became almost meditative. He chopped and listened, absorbing bits of gossip and rule after rule. Never speak unless spoken to. Never speculate about the royal family. Never question orders from above. Do you ever see them? Tyler asked quietly when a rare lull settled over their station. The royals, I mean. Lena's eyes flickered yellow, the Tavonian equivalent of a warning light. That is not for us to discuss. Those who serve the family directly are chosen carefully. The rest of us keep our heads down. Tyler bit his tongue. Curiosity, here, was a dangerous habit. Days blurred together. Early starts, late finishes, knives, steam, burned fingertips, lectures from Kellner, soft corrections from Lena. Slowly, the palace that had dazzled him from above became a place he understood by its smells and sounds. The sharp tang of alien herbs, the hum of refrigeration chambers, the clipping heels of nobles passing beyond the kitchen doors. Then, one ordinary morning, Master Kellner called him over with unusual seriousness. Human, he said, today you are to assemble a private meal for Prince Zerich. It must be arranged precisely to these specifications. He handed Tyler a transparent sheet etched with a circular map. Every dish had a precise position, portion, and shape like a code. Tyler studied it and felt a jolt of recognition. The layout wasn't about presentation. It was a tactile map. This is for someone who can't see, isn't it? The question slipped out before he could catch it. Is the prince? Kellner's eyes flashed crimson. You are not permitted to discuss the prince's condition, he said, voice like ice. You will prepare the tray. You will follow the pattern. You will not ask again. Tyler swallowed and nodded. But the spark of curiosity had already caught. Someone, somewhere in this enormous palace of light and color, needed a map just to eat in peace. And Tyler couldn't stop wondering who he was and why, in a place this grand, the prince who needed the most help seemed to be the one no one spoke about at all. Tyler followed the diagram with almost obsessive care. He cut each portion into careful, uniform shapes, placed them at exact angles on the round plate, and double-checked the spacing until he was sure a person could navigate the meal without spilling a drop. He felt oddly proud when he finished. At least, he thought, someone would have a less stressful dinner because of him. "I'll take it to the prince," he offered. "I know how it's laid out. If something slips, you will do no such thing," Master Kellner snapped. "The prince's meals are delivered by designated servers. Return to your station." Tyler obeyed, but the mystery of the hidden prince lodged in his mind like a seed. Over the next days, he collected fragments of information the way steam collected on the kitchen walls. Older staff whispered when they thought he wasn't listening. A blind prince, a flaw in the royal line, a child born without the full brilliance of Tavonian eyes. They say he remembers everything he hears. One elderly server confided in a low voice as they scraped plates. Speaks more languages than anyone in the palace. But they still sit him alone. Alone, Tyler echoed. Far into the hall. Separate table. Like he's contagious. That image wouldn't leave him. One night, after his shift, he slipped into a side corridor that connected the kitchen to the great dining hall. Through a narrow service opening, he could see the entire vast room. The main tables glittered with silver and crystal. Court nobles chatted under luminous chandeliers. At the very center, the king and queen sat with their favored children, their eyes glowing in harmonious blues and purples as they conversed with high-ranking guests. And in the far corner, half in shadow, sat a solitary figure at a small table. His skin was the same silver sheen as other Tavonians, but his eyes were different, pale, milky, unfocused. Even at a distance, Tyler could tell they were not broadcasting emotion like everyone else's. They were still. Tyler watched the prince eat. Zerich's hands moved with delicate precision from plate to mouth, testing and memorizing the positions. No one spoke to him. The server who placed the dish in front of him left without a word. The conversation all around flowed as if there were an invisible wall around his little table. Night after night, the same scene played out, a hall full of light, and one person sitting inside a private circle of silence. Until the night it all went wrong. Tyler was stacking trays near the service door when noise from the hall spiked, the sound of a glass breaking followed by a ripple of gasps. He edged closer to the opening and looked through. Prince Zerich stood beside his small table, his formal clothes drenched in dark liquid. A nearby courtier, eyes glowing a guilty red, held an empty goblet. "1,000 apologies, Your Highness," the courtier said in a voice that didn't sound sorry at all. "I didn't see you there." "Of course you didn't," Zerich replied softly, his expression impassive while his fingers trembled. "No one ever does." The hall fell silent. No one moved. No one stepped forward with a cloth or an offer of help. Even the servers hesitated, terrified of crossing some invisible line of protocol. Before he knew what he was doing, Tyler was on the move. He pushed through the service door and crossed the polished floor in a few long strides. Dozens of glowing eyes snapped toward him as he broke the unspoken rule. Servants did not rush into noble business, especially not human servants. "Let me help, Your Highness," he said quickly, reaching for the chair that had been shoved away in the collision. He guided it back into position and gently placed the prince's hand on the backrest. Zerich turned his head toward Tyler's voice. Up close, his clouded eyes were startling, a soft luminescence barely flickering beneath the surface. "You're human," the prince said quietly, not asking but stating. "I can smell the detergent on your uniform and the kitchen smoke on your skin. And your accent is wrong for Tavona." "Yes, Your Highness," Tyler said, feeling every stare in the room. "Tyler Grant, from Earth. I work in the royal kitchens." "Tyler Grant," Zerich repeated carefully, as if storing the sound. "Thank you." The court sucked in a collective breath. Master Kellner materialized at Tyler's elbow a heartbeat later, eyes blazing scarlet. "Return to your station," he hissed under his breath. "Immediately. You will answer for this overstep." Tyler bowed his head to the prince and retreated, heart pounding in his ears. He knew he'd broken every rule drilled into him about hierarchy and distance. But he also knew something else. If he had to choose between protocol and helping a person who clearly needed it, he'd probably do it again. That night, he was summoned to the office of Lord Vexer, the royal chamberlain. Vexer's office was as intimidating as the man himself. Polished stone, cold light, and a desk that looked like it had crushed lesser employees in the past. The chamberlain's eyes glowed a frigid blue when Tyler entered. "You've caused quite a conversation, human," Vexer said without any greeting, approaching a prince uninvited, in front of the entire court. "Explain yourself." Tyler kept his gaze on the floor, mind racing. "Your lordship, I saw someone in trouble and reacted. Where I come from, that's what you do." "Humans," Vexer murmured, almost to himself, always leaping before looking. Tyler braced for dismissal, or worse. However, Vexer continued, his eyes shifting to a watchful yellow. "His Highness has requested something unusual." Tyler blinked. "Unusual?" "The prince has asked that you be reassigned to his personal service." The disbelief in Vexer's voice was obvious. "I informed him you have no formal training." He insisted. "Me?" Tyler's head snapped up before he remembered he wasn't supposed to stare. "The arrangement will be conditional," Vexer said crisply. "You will assist the prince with practical matters, especially during meals and public events. You will follow all palace rules. Any hint of impropriety, incompetence, or overfamiliarity, and you will be shipped back to Earth on the next available transport. Do you understand?" Tyler's heart thudded with a mix of fear and excitement. "Yes, my lord. I understand. Report to Prince Zerich's wing at first light tomorrow," Vexer ordered with a dismissive flick of his hand. "Senior Attendant Merrick will brief you." As Tyler left, his mind buzzed. He had come to Tavona expecting to chop vegetables for a year and maybe boost his college applications. Somehow, in a single impulsive moment, he'd been pulled into the life of the most isolated person in the entire palace. A blind alien prince had chosen a human kitchen worker to be his guide. Tyler had no idea how to feel about that, but he knew one thing for sure. Nothing about the next year was going to be simple. The next morning, Tyler stood outside a guarded door in one of the quieter wings of the palace, palms sweating. The guard studied him, eyes glowing yellow, assessing. "Human Tyler Grant," Tyler announced, repeating the line he'd practiced all the way there. "Reporting is ordered to serve Prince Zerich." The guard stepped aside. "Enter. The prince is expecting you." Tyler slipped into a calm antechamber lined with intricate metalwork and textured wall hangings. The decorations here felt different, less showy, more tactile. He reached out and brushed a carved panel, feeling raised patterns under his fingertips. An older Tavonian with soft lines on his face and eyes glowing a tranquil blue approached. "I'm Merrick," he said, "senior attendant to His Highness Prince Zerich. You will assist me. Before you meet the prince, you must understand a few things." Tyler straightened. "Yes, sir." "First," Merrick said, "His Highness is blind, but not helpless. He moves confidently in spaces he knows. Do not grab or steer him without warning. Offer your arm, describe clearly, and let him decide how much help he wants." Tyler nodded, mentally filing that away. "Second, the prince's hearing is extremely sharp. He can recognize individuals by their footsteps, breathing, even scent. Do not whisper about him in the corridor and assume he cannot hear." "Got it," Tyler murmured. "Third, and most important," Merrick continued, his eyes briefly flickering purple with emphasis, "never lie about what you see. When he asks for descriptions of people, of rooms, of expressions, be accurate and direct. His Highness dislikes vague, decorative talk. He prefers clean facts." "That sounds fair," Tyler said. "Good." Marek's eyes warmed to green for a heartbeat. "As for the court, many nobles prefer to pretend he isn't there. You're not here to fix their prejudice. You're here to make sure he can function with dignity, even when they pretend he's invisible." Before Tyler could respond, a voice floated from the next room, steady and clear. "Merrick, is that my new attendant?" "Yes, Your Highness," Merrick replied. He turned to Tyler and gestured toward a doorway. "You may go in." Tyler stepped into Prince Zerich's private study and stopped, momentarily stunned. The room wasn't decorated like other palace chambers. There were no dramatic views, no glowing art meant to dazzle the eyes. Instead, low tables were covered in objects of different textures: smooth stones, carved wood, layered fabrics. Subtle music pulsed from hidden speakers, and the air carried notes of spice and something floral. Prince Zerich sat near a wide window, face tilted toward the light as if listening to it. His silver skin seemed to drink in the sun, but his eyes were as Merrick had described: milky, faintly luminous, unfocused. Up close, Tyler realized he might have been considered handsome by human standards too: strong jaw, high cheekbones, steady posture. "Approach, Tyler Grant of Earth," Zerich said, head tilting slightly. "Let me get a sense of you." Tyler walked forward and stopped at what felt like a respectful distance. "Good morning, Your Highness." "Your voice is slower today," Zerich observed calmly. "You're nervous." "A bit," Tyler admitted. "I've never done a job like this before. And I've never had a human attendant," Zerich said lightly. "We will both be improvising." He extended a hand, palm upward. "May I?" Tyler understood. He placed his hand in the prince's. Zerich's fingers were cool and careful as they traced the lines of Tyler's palm. The knuckles, the calluses from kitchen work. It was oddly intimate but purely analytical, like someone reading a map, not a person. "Human skin has so much variation," Zerich mused. "Tiny scars, changes in texture. Tavonian skin is smoother. We tell most of our stories with light instead." He released Tyler's hand. "Now I know your shape, your smell, your voice. I won't mistake you for someone else. Why did you ask for me?" Tyler blurted, then winced. "Sorry, is that rude?" Zerich's lips quirked. "Direct, not rude. I requested you because you moved when no one else did. You helped me when it cost you something. That is rare in this palace." "It just felt normal," Tyler said. "Back home, if someone spills something on you, you help them. You don't stand there and stare." "A simple ethic," Zerich replied, amusement flickering in his tone. "Yet shockingly rare here." He rose to his feet, standing a little taller than Tyler. "Merrick tells me you're here to guide me. We'll test that today. I wish to attend a historical lecture and a music performance. Events I'm usually spared for the comfort of others." Tyler straightened, nerves turning to purpose. "Then I'll make sure you get there in one piece. You're Zerich." "When we are alone," the prince said quietly, "you may use my name. Titles lose their meaning when you've been hidden as an embarrassment for most of your life." Tyler hesitated. "That seems wrong." "It is what it is," Zerich said, unfazed. "Come, let's give the court something to gossip about." The walk to the lecture hall taught Tyler his first real lesson in palace politics. He offered his arm. Zerich rested his hand lightly just above the elbow. The prince's steps were confident, especially in familiar corridors. Tyler described changes in flooring, upcoming stairs, and approaching corners. More than that, he reported what he saw in the faces around them. "That noble to your left, male, tall, robe with gold trim," Tyler murmured softly. "His eyes went yellow when he saw you, then quickly blue, like he's pretending you're just part of the wall." "Lord Tavries," Zerich replied dryly. "He once proposed a marriage alliance, then withdrew it when my condition was mentioned out loud. He now prefers not to acknowledge my continued existence." Tyler swallowed. "That's awful." "It's Tavonian," Zerich said. "We are taught to worship perfection. Those who don't match the image become uncomfortable facts." The lecture hall filled with nobles and scholars. The moment Zerich stepped inside with Tyler at his side, a wave of murmurs rippled through the room. "The second row, far left, has 2 empty seats," Tyler whispered. "Clear path, no obstacles." "Lead the way," Zerich replied calmly. They took their seats. The scholar on stage, eyes glowing purple with professional curiosity, began a dense talk about ancient wars with a long-vanished enemy known as the Krell Dominion. Tyler tried to follow, but the names and dates piled up like debris. Beside him, Zerich sat utterly still, head tilted, soaking in every word. When the floor opened for questions, something electric moved through the room as the blind prince raised his hand. "Yes, Your Highness," the scholar said, eyes brightening. We are honored by your presence. You have a question? You claimed our victory in the Corvus Nebula was due to the Krell's inability to track our ships in the ionic clouds, Zerich said in a calm, clear voice that carried easily. Yet records from that era show our vessels were also vulnerable to those same clouds. Would it not be more accurate to say that both sides were effectively blind, and that our success came from learning to fight without sight more quickly than they did? A stir moved through the audience. The scholar's eyes flickered yellow, then purple again as he reconsidered his own lecture. An excellent correction, Your Highness, he conceded. Yes, the traditional version simplifies the encounter. Your framing is truer to the tactical reality. Tyler, watching, felt a fierce surge of pride on Zerich's behalf. The same nobles who pretended the prince didn't exist had just witnessed him outthink a respected expert. After the talk, on their way to a music recital, Tyler noticed subtle changes. They're still avoiding your eye line, he murmured, but now some of them look curious. Kind of purple-green mix. Curiosity is a start, Zerich said. It's harder to erase someone you find interesting. The music hall was designed like a ripple in stone, concentric circles of seats around a lower performance space. Musicians from multiple worlds took turns, playing instruments Tyler had no names for. This is where I feel most equal, Zerich admitted softly as the first notes filled the air. Here, sight is just one piece of the experience. Tyler watched the prince as he listened. Zerich's face changed with each piece, his hands tapping lightly, jaw tightening, smoothing, relaxing. Where other Tavonians radiated their feelings through their eyes, he carried his in his posture and expression. During the intermission, a young Tavonian woman approached, eyes flickering between blue and purple. Prince Zerich, she said, bowing. I'm Lyra, daughter of Counselor Nevin. I wanted to thank you for your question at the lecture. It was illuminating. Lady Lyra, Zerich replied with practiced ease. Your father's work on agricultural reform has been impressive. Do you share his interests? Lyra blinked, surprised he knew. Her eyes glowed a pleased green. I do, Your Highness. I've been studying adaptive crop systems for unstable environments. Crucial work, Zerich said warmly. Perhaps you might visit my study. I would like to hear your findings. Her eyes brightened even more. I'd be honored. As she stepped away, Tyler leaned over. She's still looking back at you, he murmured. Twice now. Curiosity again, Zerich said with a faint smile. And perhaps the beginning of allies I didn't know I could have. By the time Tyler guided Zerich back to his secluded dinner table that night, something fundamental had shifted. The open contempt and discomfort were still there, hanging around the edges of the hall like fog. But for the first time since Tyler had arrived on Tavona, the invisible barrier around the blind prince looked just the tiniest bit cracked. And Tyler, narrating the room quietly in Zerich's ear, realized he wasn't just describing events anymore. He was helping somebody who had been deliberately kept in the dark build a picture of a world that finally had to start seeing him back. Weeks slid by, each one reshaping the patterns of palace life. Every morning, Tyler reported to Zerich's chambers to give a briefing. At first it was awkward, a weather report, a summary of the day's schedule, bits of news he'd overheard. Over time, it turned into something more layered. Two ministers arguing in the Eastern Hall this morning, Tyler would say, walking beside the prince. Eyes flashing red-yellow. They shut up fast when someone passed. A sign of guilt or just fear of being overheard, Zerich would murmur. Who was walking by? Lord Vexer. Then fear. A small smile. Even nobles are afraid of the chamberlain's cold stare. They developed a rhythm. Tyler learned how to describe things the prince cared about. Not just what people wore, but how they carried themselves. Not just where someone stood, but where they chose not to stand. The subtle shifts of eye color that revealed emotions people didn't want broadcasted. You're getting good at this, Zerich commented one afternoon in the palace gardens, fingers drifting over a row of textured leaves selected for their feel rather than their look. You see angles most Tavonians miss. I'm an outsider, Tyler said. It's easier to spot the weird stuff when you're not used to it. Or perhaps humans have an advantage, Zerich replied. You've adapted to so many different cultures so quickly. That takes a certain flexible way of thinking. Tyler thought of Earth's messy history, of all the times humans had failed at understanding each other. We have our issues. So does every species, Zerich said. The difference is whether you're willing to admit them. Not everyone liked the new visibility of the blind prince. Lord Vexor summoned Tyler after nearly 2 months of this quiet revolution. I've heard reports, the Chamberlain said, eyes a chilly blue. The prince is attending more public functions. He is speaking, asking questions, drawing attention. He's a prince, Tyler said carefully. Isn't that normal? For other princes, Vexor snapped, eyes flickering red before he controlled himself. His Highness's condition is delicate. Our empire's strength is built on the image of flawless light. His presence complicates that narrative. With all due respect, my lord, Tyler said, choosing each word as if it might explode, the prince is intelligent. People are starting to notice that, not just his eyes. Your assignment, Vexor said icily, was to assist with his meals and movements, not to turn him into a spectacle. You will be more discreet. Encourage fewer appearances. The reputation of the royal house is not a toy for humans to play with. Tyler left the office furious, but also scared. Vexor couldn't openly punish a prince, but a human attendant was easy to remove. When he told Zerich what had happened, the prince listened in silence, fingers resting on the arm of his chair. Vexor has always been that way, Zerich said at last. He truly believes he's protecting Tavona by protecting the illusion of perfection. That illusion is hurting you, Tyler said sharply. It's not protection. It's prison. Both can look similar, Zerich replied quietly. But we won't step back. We'll just choose our battles more carefully. The chance came with a grand diplomatic reception. 12 newly joined Commonwealth worlds were sending ambassadors to Tavona. The palace would be at its most polished. Traditionally, Zerich was tucked away during such events, given minor meetings with people who wouldn't question why a prince never met their gaze. This time, an invitation arrived with his name on it. Counselor Nevin has more influence than I realized, Zerich said, fingers brushing the embossed lettering. He's in charge of planning the cultural program. It seems he's decided I belong in the picture. Tyler helped him dress for the evening, describing the ceremonial robes in detail. Deep blue fabric trimmed with silver that caught the light, a crest stitched over the heart so that every breath would make it shimmer. You look like you belong at the center of everything, Tyler said honestly. I do, Zerich replied with a small, wry smile, whether they like it or not. The reception hall was breathtaking even by palace standards. Floating spheres of light drifted overhead, casting shifting patterns over the crowd. Delegations from a dozen worlds mingled, their forms and colors clashing and harmonizing like living art. As Tyler guided Zerich through the entrance, conversations dimmed. Tavonian eyes turned toward them, colors swirling, curiosity, discomfort, resentment, something like respect. Earth's ambassador is coming, Tyler murmured. Short, silver hair, formal uniform. Eyes, human, so no glow obviously. But she's smiling. Ambassador Chun? Zerich said, head turning. Prince Zerich, she greeted warmly. I'm Helen Chun, representing Earth. It's an honor to finally meet you. The honor is mine, Zerich replied graciously. I believe you already know Tyler. He speaks highly of your work. He's become something of a celebrity in our program, Chun said with a grin. The boy who went from kitchen duty to advising a Tavonian prince. Earth's education networks love stories like that. I'm the one benefiting, Zerich said. Human perspective has been surprisingly useful. More diplomats joined the circle, some drawn by the novelty, others by sincere interest in the prince's sharp insights. Zerich handled questions with calm intelligence, never once tripping, never once needing Tyler to feed him answers. Tyler's role in those moments was to quietly nod, add context when asked, and occasionally murmur a detail about a flicker of eye color across the room. Across the hall, Tyler spotted Lord Vexor watching them. The Chamberlain's eyes glowed a steady, angry red. More surprising were the king and queen, seated where they could see everything. The king's eyes kept drifting toward Zerich, shifting between blue and yellow, calm mixed with uncertainty. The queens remained mostly yellow, concern that had yet to find a name. During a lull, Lyra approached them again, eyes glowing green with excitement. "Prince Zerich," she said, bowing, "my father has organized a special presentation in the adjoining gallery. Multi-sensory light sculpture, sound, scent, and motion integrated. He thought you might want to experience it and invited a few key guests. Would you join us?" "I will be delighted," Zerich replied. "Lead on." The smaller gallery was filled with art that wasn't meant to be merely looked at. Sculptures pulsed gently, releasing threads of music and fragrance that changed when people moved around them. Subtle air currents shifted, brushing against skin. "This is incredible," Tyler whispered. "It's like listening to space itself breathe," Zerich said quietly, hands outstretched to feel the patterns. "This artist understands that vision is only one doorway." A multi-limbed diplomat from another world laughed softly. "On my planet, we navigate mostly through smell and vibration. These sculptures speak our language better than your usual Tavonian displays." Counselor Nevin beamed. "That was the goal, to show our guests that Tavona can meet others where they are." "This is more than art," Zerich said thoughtfully. "This is strategy, inclusivity as a form of strength." As the conversation deepened, the gallery fell into a thoughtful hush. That was when Tyler noticed someone else had arrived. The king stood in the doorway, watching his son. For the first time, Tyler saw curiosity, even a hint of pride, in the ruler's eyes, steady purple with no trace of embarrassment. When the discussion paused naturally, the king stepped forward. Everyone bowed, the room rustling with fabric and deference. Tyler felt Zerich straighten slightly beside him. "Father," Zerich said, recognizing the footsteps and the way the air shifted, "I hope the reception is pleasing to you." "It is exceeding expectations," the king said slowly. "Counselor Nevin's innovations are interesting." His eyes shifted briefly toward Tyler, then back to his son. "Your remarks tonight have been equally noteworthy." "Thank you, Father," Zerich said evenly. The king studied him for a long heartbeat. Then he said something that stunned the room. "I would value your assessment of our guests and their concerns," he said. "Join me in my study tomorrow. Bring your human attendant, if you wish. I suspect his observations will complement your own." Zerich's composure barely flickered, but Tyler felt the faint tremor in his arm where their bodies touched. "It will be my honor," Zerich replied quietly. As the king left, a new kind of silence settled around them. Not the suffocating silence of shame, but the stunned quiet that comes when something impossible has just begun to happen. For the first time in a decade, the ruling monarch of Tavona had publicly asked his blind son for advice on matters of state. And he'd invited a human kitchen worker turned attendant into that conversation. The meeting in the king's study the next morning didn't change Tavonian society overnight, but cracked the foundation. The king listened as Zerich, with Tyler's help, laid out observations about the reception, how different species reacted to the palace, which ambassadors seemed wary, who responded positively to the multi-sensory art, how Earth's growing influence might reshape Commonwealth politics. Tyler spoke only when asked, describing things Zerich could not see. A nervous twitch here, a resentful glare there, the way certain nobles tightened their jaws whenever the blind prince impressed someone. When they left, the king's eyes were a thoughtful purple-blue mix. "He's thinking," Zerich said quietly as they walked away. "That's more progress than I expected in a single conversation." Nothing dramatic happened the next day, or the one after that. But over the next weeks, the court rearranged itself in small, revealing ways. Zerich appeared at more official events. His chair moved gradually closer to the main tables. His insights were solicited in council meetings when discussions involved off-world cultures, ethics, or inclusive policy. Lord Vexer still sent Tyler icy looks, but the Chamberlain's power to keep Zerich in the shadows had clearly weakened. If the king wanted his third son visible, Vexer had to adapt. "You've done more than you think," Merrick told Tyler one evening, as they watched Zerich debate a group of young nobles about historical bias. "When you arrived, His Highness barely left these rooms. Now look at him." "He did this," Tyler insisted. "I just described things. You saw him, Merrick said softly, when others chose not to. Never underestimate how powerful that is. As the year wore on, another clock began ticking in Tyler's mind. 6 weeks left, then 4, then 3. You try not to think about it, but Zerich noticed. You're quieter, the prince said one day in the garden, listening to the murmuring fountains. Your descriptions are less playful. Sorry, Tyler said. I've just been thinking. About returning to Earth, Zerich said simply. Tyler let out a breath. Ambassador program ends soon. I'm supposed to go home. You miss your mother, Zerich observed. And yet your voice tightens when you imagine leaving. Tyler stared at the ground. I came here to get away from pain. I didn't plan on building something. With me, Zerich said, no accusation in his tone, only fact. With you. With this place, Tyler admitted. You matter to me, Zerich. I don't like imagining you going back to eating in the corner alone while everyone pretend you're not there. Zerich was quiet for a long moment. At first, when you helped me in the dining hall, he said, I thought you would be a temporary disruption, a small rebellion that would be corrected. I didn't expect you to become necessary. Necessary? Tyler repeated. You give me access to a world my own people refuse to show me, Zerich said. You tell me things no one else would dare describe. And you remind me that my existence is not a mistake simply because it is different. Tyler's throat tightened. I've spoken to Ambassador Chun, Zerich continued. There are exceptions in the program for extended assignments when all parties agree, and when the arrangement benefits both worlds. Tyler's heart jumped. Extended as in? As in, Zerich said, a small real smile touching his lips. If you wish, you could remain on Tavona in a formal capacity. Not as a temporary servant. As a cultural advisor between our peoples. You want me to stay? Tyler's voice cracked. If you choose to, Zerich said calmly. You have family and a life on Earth. I would never demand it. But I would prefer not to lose you. Yes, Tyler said, the word out before he could stop it. I mean, I need to talk to my mom. But yes, I want to stay. If she's okay. Speak to her, Zerich said. We will wait. The call home was tearful and awkward and hopeful all at once. Tyler's mother cried when she saw his face on the holoscreen, then laughed when he told her everything about the blind prince, the palace, the new position. You sound alive again, she said. If staying there is what's best for you, then we'll make the distance work. Officially, the announcement came a few weeks later. A new position was created within the Tavonian court. Human cultural liaison and advisor to Prince Zerich. The title sounded overly formal to Tyler, but he couldn't deny the impact. It meant he was no longer a temporary kitchen worker on loan. He was part of something bigger, a bridge between worlds. On the evening that would have been his farewell dinner, the palace hosted a celebration instead. This time, Zerich did not sit at a lonely corner table. He was at the main royal table, just a few seats away from the king and queen. Counselor Nevin, Lyra, Merrick, and several young nobles who had become regulars at his gatherings sat nearby. Tyler stood at Zerich's shoulder as servers circulated with dishes. Old habits died hard. Even with his new title, he still caught himself checking plate arrangements and watching for dangerous spills. Describe the room for me, Zerich said quietly. Tyler looked around, letting himself really see it. The hall is bright, he began. Not the harsh kind of bright, more like warm. The lights are softer tonight. People are more relaxed. The nobles at the far tables keep glancing this way, but it's different now. Less like they're staring at something they don't understand, and more like they're watching a story they haven't caught up with yet. And my parents? Zerich asked. The king's eyes are blue, Tyler said. Completely calm. There's a little purple around the edges. That's curiosity. He keeps listening when you speak, even when you're not addressing him. And my mother? Tyler smiled. Her eyes are green. Zerich froze. Green? Yeah, Tyler said. She keeps looking at you when you're not facing her. It's not worry. It looks like pride. Zerich let out a slow breath. I never thought I'd see that day, or have it described to me. As the night went on, toasts were made, not just to alliances and treaties, but to the unexpected partnership between a blind Tavonian prince and a human boy who refused to look away. After dessert, Merrick leaned over to Tyler. Do you realize what you've done? He asked quietly. I cut up fruit and annoyed a lot of strict old people. Tyler joked weakly. You helped an empire built on the illusion of perfection admit that difference can also be strength, Merrick replied. That's no small thing. Later, alone in the quiet of the study, Tyler and Zerich sat across from each other. No titles, no audience, just two people who had changed each other's lives. When I first arrived, Tyler said, I thought I was just running away from home, from grief. I never expected to find purpose. When you first arrived, Zerich said, I thought you would be one more person who pitied me or pretended not to see me. Instead, you looked, and you stayed. Tyler frowned in thought. Do you ever miss what you never had? Being able to see, I mean. Zerich considered, then shook his head slightly. Sometimes I wish others didn't define me by what I lack. But as for sight, my world has always been this way. What I wanted wasn't vision. It was to be allowed to exist in the light with everyone else. And now? Tyler asked. Now, Zerich said, a real smile spreading across his face. I sit at the main table. And you, he added, sit beside me. The narrator's voice returns, warm and steady, as if wrapping up a long evening. And that, she says, is where we'll leave them for now. A blind prince who learned his value did not depend on glowing eyes, and a human boy who discovered that being adaptable sometimes meant standing up when everyone expected him to stay in his place. If you listened all the way to the end, she adds with a grin you can almost hear, drop a comment telling us what you thought. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the next story popping up on your screen. Something tells me you'll love that one too, because sometimes all it takes to change an ancient empire